What's up, guys? Welcome back to the trading world. Today is February 20th, 2026, and we're going to be reviewing the NASDAQ futures market, covering all kinds of real trades you can take to make real money. If you guys like this type of content, definitely consider leaving a like, subscribing, follow me on X, and checking out my completely free trading Discord. The link to that is in my bio. So, to start today off, how could you have really easily determined the bias for today? This was one of the best examples of the overnight gap being really useful for bias. Check this out. We have, if I switch this to from electronic trading hours, so this is including the overnight price action, and I switch this to regular trading hours, you have the gap between the New York Stock Exchange close and the New York Stock Exchange open at 4:14 Eastern and 9:30 Eastern. ICT calls this essentially a vacuum, right? Where the market is going to suck back in to that old liquidity from the prior New York session. It's going to suck back in because it's like that bag analogy of if all the air gets sucked out of the bag, what's going to happen when you open it? Right? All the air, or maybe it's the other way around. The air gets sucked out of the bag. Right? That's what's happening with these overnight gaps. The market sucks back up into it. And so right when the market opens, you kind of need to go into the market with this idea. And having this idea in mind and also understanding what is this high right here. What is special about this high? It's very significant. It is the high of unemployment claims. Check this out. We had, not unemployment claims, advanced GDP quarter over quarter and core PCE price index. That happened at 8:30, and there's your 8:30 high. And why is this significant? Because the market's going to want to come back to it. So essentially two different reasons why the market should go up. One, we have a data high. Two, we have the overnight gap above. Okay, so going into the market with the market open with that in mind, we had what in my opinion was the trade of the day, which is very simple. It's an outside bar, right? So if you guys don't remember what outside bar is, all it is you have a candle that the next candle after takes both. Here, let me see if I can get a different image of it so I can zoom in. The candle after takes the low and the high of the candle prior. That is the definition of an outside bar. And then usually what I like to see is I like to see it close higher. So here's the candle prior, here's the low, here's the high. The next candle after takes that low and takes that high, and what I like to see is usually a strong closure. And what's cool, and the reason I marked it out like this, is it's not only taking the low and the high of the previous candle, it's actually taking the low and the high of the previous 7 candles. This is a really, really nice signature in price. And it has what I call a thanks for the liquidity wick. Well, I learned it from Dodgy, but basically it is when the market wicks down very aggressively and then closes higher. Essentially, what's happening? People get stopped out. It's like saying thanks for the liquidity. We stopped you out. Now we're gonna send the market the opposite direction. So if you ever see me mark out something as TFTL wick, what I'm saying is thanks for liquidity. Right? We're gonna go the other way now. So we get the 2-minute outside bar. Enter on that close. Stop loss here, and you have a great break-even spot. And we go straight up to the data high, which was the obvious take profit, right? And from there, you obviously could have held it much further, but personally, I wouldn't have. Another cool trade that I really liked was also an outside bar. So check this out. And this is kind of cool. This is really cool, actually. Once again, coming back to news, right? We had 10 a.m. new home sales. It's kind of funny because so many people still think that news is random. But news delivers price to the draw and liquidity, guys. And I mean, this is probably one of the best examples of that being the case. Check this out, right? I'm going to pull this up on the other image because, once again, it's not going to let me zoom in. Once again, we have an outside bar where we have a prior candle has the high and the low here. The next candle after, so this one, takes the high and the low of this candle, and it closes higher. So you get your entry right there on that close. And why do I like this so much? Once again, very nice thanks for the liquidity wick, right? Sweeping out essentially all of these lows. And what time did this occur at? Exactly what time? 10 a.m. It occurred right at 10 a.m., which is exactly when your orange folder new home sales news came out. Is that a coincidence that the entry for this really high probability trade occurred right at 10 a.m.? No. Right towards our draw on liquidity, which was first London high and then previous day's high. And if you guys don't think that this was a possible trade you could have taken, go watch my live stream where I tape read it. I literally tape read this trade on live stream. I didn't take it because I had never really seen an outside bar that had looked like this before, but nonetheless, I was aware that it was possible that it would work, and it was really, really nice, actually. So, yeah, that was another cool one. Once again, news delivers price to whatever target we're going towards. Pretty cool. Then we have a somewhat easier trade later on. This is a very simple inversion for value gap with SMT. So we have SMT with this low. We have a fair value gap. And then we have an amazing momentum candle closing above that gap. So what is this? It's your very basic inversion for value gap where we have a gap, we close higher, boom. And this is the type of trade where I can just tell we're kind of whipsawing back and forth. I would not hold this that long. I would just go for like 1-to-1. We did go up to this high, but once again, I would just probably go for 1-to-1 here, just based off of the way we're going back and forth. It's just all about the draw on liquidity, how much RR you go for. So we also had, instead of the 2-minute, you could have also front ran the 2-minute, meaning taking the lower time frame one if you had conviction. So here's the 1-minute outside bar at market open. And you'll note if you didn't like it as an outside bar, you could have taken this inversion for value gap. Obviously, so this is kind of confusing. This always confused me back in the day. I was like, well, Dodgy, because Dodgy would talk about trades like this where we'd get an inversion. He's like, I'd be like, well, Dodgy, why not take this one? This one closed above the gap. Because this one is not obvious. This one is very obvious, right? This one is it's not ready to go run liquidity. This one's very obvious it's ready to go run liquidity. Once again, with this very nice, thanks for the liquidity wick. So we close above this gap with this giant momentum candle, great break-even spot, and then we run up to our data high. Bang. So what else do we have? I'm not sure I like this one that much, but I'm going to note it, right? We had an inversion on the 3-minute. Maybe you take this as a scalp. And then later on in the day, we had outside bar off of a new week opening gap. So once again, here's the old prior candle. The next candle takes the high and the low, and it doesn't have to close lower, but I usually like to see it have some kind of displacement. And then bang, 2-minute outside bar. You could have also entered on the retest, so right here. And then bang, delivery lower off the new week opening gap. Anytime you have an outside bar or a pin bar off a new week opening gap or a new day opening gap, I will refer to that as hand of FA, right? That's just the nickname I gave it. So here's another one, and you can see it was also SMT with the data high. So that was pretty cool. We had a 5-minute Phoenix model, right, where once again we have SMT with the data high. We utilize this rejection block right into the lunch macro. Bang, we go lower off of that. You could even since it's a 5-minute rejection block, you could look for a 30-second change state delivery off of that. And there's another one up here, which is a very, very aggressive, scary one to take, but you could try that. And last thing I'll mention for today is the first presented for value gap ended up being a breakaway gap. So if you guys don't know what a breakaway gap is, it's totally fine. I'll explain it right now. So basically, a breakaway gap is when a fair value gap gets created and it never gets returned to. So we never return to this breakaway gap. And since this breakaway gap was the first presented fair value gap, this is insanely bullish. This is insanely bullish. So keep that in your mind. If we create the first presented fair value gap, usually a lot of time we're gonna utilize it in some way. If we don't even utilize it, if we leave it as a breakaway gap, this is going to be like really, really bullish in this case. So yeah, that's the last thing I wanted to say. Hopefully this video helps someone. Hopefully, you learned something, and let me know how I can make these better. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.